Usually when we start one of these, I try to give you a clean roadmap. Today we're connecting A to B. Simple.
A straight line.
The straight line, coffee to the Enlightenment or something. But today, I'm looking at this stack of sources in front of me, and I have to be honest, the map is on fire.
It is, without a doubt, the most eclectic and strangely cohesive set of sources we have ever tried to put together.
Eclectic is being polite. This is something else. We're talking about a story that starts with a satirical letter from ancient Egypt, we're talking 13th century BCE, about literal giants.
Right.
And it somehow ends with a quantum computing breakthrough involving the insane clown posse.
It sounds like a fever dream, I know.
Yeah.
But the mission today is to trace what the sources call the civilizational network hypothesis.
Civilizational network hypothesis. Okay, that sounds very academic, very tidy. The reality of it is not tidy at all.
Not at all. The core argument is that history isn't a straight line. It's not, progress. It's a recursive loop. A recursive loop. The theory says we're in a reality that's defined by this unity-first mathematical engine. And the key thing, it totally rejects the concept of zero.
So just to give you a sense of what we're working with here, we have excerpts from a 3,300-year-old Egyptian papyrus. We have linguistic analysis on cymatic sound vibrations.
Archaeological data on ancient copper mines in the Great Lakes.
And then, just to really bake your noodle, we have a set of scientific papers from 2025 and 2026. Nature Physics, Nature Chemistry.
Yeah, top-tier journals that supposedly validate the math behind every single bit of this.
Exactly. And let's be super clear up front. We're not here to tell you this is fact. We are unpacking the internal logic of this theory. We're trying to see how these Pieces giants, Alexander the Great juggalos, fit together.
It's an exercise in pattern recognition. We are following the red string on the board, but with the actual sources in hand.
Okay. I feel like I need a helmet for this one. Let's do it. Let's start at the beginning, the ancient beginning. Ancient Egypt.
Right, so we're looking at a document in the British Museum, Papyrus Anastasia I. And it's fascinating because it's not what you'd expect. It's not a prayer. It's not a list of pharaohs. It's, basically a diss track.
A 3,000-year-old diss track. I love that.
It is. It's a scribe named Hori writing to another scribe, Amenemopi, and he is just roasting him, tearing him apart for being incompetent, for not knowing geography, for bad handwriting, everything.
So this is like Bronze Age office politics. Per my last papyrus, you are an absolute moron.
Exactly that. But buried in all this satire is one little detail that kicks off this entire theory. Hori describes a mountain pass in Canaan, a really dangerous spot, and he talks about an encounter with Shasu nomads.
And he's not just saying we ran into some guys.
Oh no, he describes these warriors as standing 4 to 5 cubits tall. Now you got to do the math here. A Royal Egyptian cubit is about 20.6 inches.
Okay, wait, so 4 to 5 cubits is what? That's almost 7 to 8.5 feet tall?
That's the range. And he says they have fierce faces. Now, historians, they usually just dismiss this. They say, oh, it's exaggeration, it's satire, he's just trying to make a point.
But this theory says, what if he wasn't exaggerating?
What if he was just reporting what he saw? It takes the text at face value, and it immediately links it to the biblical accounts of the Anakim, or Nephilim.
Right, from the Book of Numbers, when the Israelite spies go into Canaan, the same area, and come back terrified.
And they say, we seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and so we looked to them.
So you've got two different cultures, Egyptian and Hebrew, describing unusually large people in the same region around the same time. That's the data point.
Precisely. But here's where the theory pivots. It's not about the biology of giants. It's about the word. The word Anakim. That word, it argues, is a key. And that key unlocks what the sources call the phonetic cymatic web.
Okay, this was the part of the notes where I had to stop and just stare at the wall for a minute. The theory claims the word phonetic itself actually implies Phoenician.
It's a huge linguistic leap, but let's follow the logic. The idea is that the Phoenician alphabet, the ancestor of our ABCs, wasn't just a set of symbols for writing down business transactions.
Okay.
The theory is that the 22 consonants of their abjad are fossilized cymatic patterns.
Cymatics, we should define that. That's the sand on the vibrating plate thing, right? Where you see sound.
Yes, exactly. You run a frequency through a plate with sand on it, and the sand arranges itself into these perfect, complex geometric shapes, mandalas, hexagons.
So the letter A isn't just a random shape. It's a picture of what the ah sound looks like.
That is the hypothesis, that the Phoenician alphabet is a diagram of vibrational physics. So when you speak these ancient words, you aren't just communicating. You are, in a sense, hacking reality. You're projecting geometry into the air.
Wow. Okay, so speaking is basically running a program.
In this framework, yes. And this loops back to the giants. The root word for Anakim is Nach-NQ. It means neck, referring to their height.
Yeah.
But the theory claims these three-letter Semitic roots were engineered, that they resonate with cosmic frequencies.
When you say cosmic, are we talking spiritual or literal? Like stars?
Literally astronomical. The sources point to the story of Abraham scanning the heavens. He looks to Sirius, then the moon, then the sun. The claim is that the language was engineered to resonate with those stellar cycles, a holographic link between sound and orbital mechanics.
So the giants, the Anakim, are the keepers of this reality-bending source code.
Correct. And the hypothesis says this knowledge didn't just die in Canaan, it spread, it diffused.
This is the network part of the hypothesis. We're tracing the signal.
We are. It moves from Phoenician sea routes to the Scythian steppes.
Yeah.
That it gets into Europe, specifically with the Latin Celtic culture, around 450 BCE.
The Iron Age Celts, yeah. I know that art style. All those intricate swirling spirals on their metalwork. It looks like frozen water.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But the theory doesn't see decoration. It sees encoded wave interference patterns. They're drawing the sound in metal, preserving the cymatic code.
Okay, the signal is moving north and west. Where next?
It finds refuge in the Basque country. The sources call the Basque language a non-Indo-European holdout, a language isolate. It survived the Roman Empire, and, the theory argues, it preserved these vibration codes. From there, it jumps north, Vikings, and then eventually all the way across the Atlantic to the Inuit.
The Inuit. So we've gone from the sands of Egypt to Arctic ice.
It's a linguistic chain. The source traces a word, from Basque Izar, which means star, to the Norse Jarna, and then connects it to the Inuit practice of Kattajak, throat singing.
Throat singing. That deep, guttural, rhythmic sound. It definitely sounds fundamental, primal.
The argument is that it is raw cymatics. It's the human voice trying to replicate those geometric frequencies without the need for a metal plate. It's the Anakim frequency, preserved in the cold.
And this all leads to a geographical climax, the detonator, they call it, Alaska.
Yes, and this is where the etymology gets really bold. The theory says the name Alaska isn't native, or rather, the Aleut word Alyaska is a corruption of a much older term from the other side of the world, the Arabic Al-Aqsa.
Al-Aqsa, as in the farthest, the mosque.
As in the literal meaning, the farthest. The idea is that ancient navigators carrying this Semitic knowledge reached the Bering Strait and named it the farthest point, the end of the known world.
So Alaska is the final node on the network, but it's not just an end point, it's also a starting point for something else. This is where the old copper complex comes in.
And this is very real. This part is accepted archaeology. We have to ground this for a second. The old copper complex, or OCC, was in the Great Lakes region of North America. And the dates are staggering. We're talking 8,000 to 4,000 BCE.
Whoa, hang on. So that's thousands of years before the pyramids, before the Bronze Age even started in Eurasia.
Exactly. And these people were mining copper, and this is the crucial part, annealing it. They were heat-treating metal. It's a massive technological leap that just sort of appears out of nowhere and then fades. The deep dive sources take this anomaly and run with it. They introduce Al-Iskandar.
Al-Iskandar? That
Yeah.
sounds like Alexander the Great in a parka.
That's the idea. The theory merges Alexander the Great with the Quranic figure Dul Qarnayn, the two-horned one.
Right, I remember Dul Qarnayn. He's the figure who builds a great wall to hold back the chaotic tribes of Gog and Magog.
And traditionally, that wall is placed somewhere in the Caucasus. But this theory asks, what if Al-Aqsa, the farthest north, was the Bering Strait? What if the Great Wall of copper and iron was built in the Arctic?
So, Alexander, or Alaskander, used the super advanced metallurgy from the Great Lakes to build a barrier in Alaska.
That is the claim. The OCC copper mines are framed as the throne, or the source of this power. The copper wasn't just for spearheads, it was for a continent-spanning barrier.
Okay, but what about the two horns?
This is where it all starts to pivot into the modern day. The two horns are linked to the Viking Jallarhorns, the trumpets that signal the end of the world, but they are also linked to something much more contemporary.
Don't say it.
Dual hatchets.
Oh, no. No, we're there. We're at the Juggalos now, aren't we?
We're there. The source material identifies the Great Lakes beast, this entity that rises from the land of the old copper complex, as the modern Juggalo subculture.
Okay. I'm trying to follow the logic. How do we get from a mythological copper wall in Alaska to the insane clown posse? How?
It's an eschatological move. It's about the end times. The theory reinterprets Gog and Magog. They aren't ancient tribes. They are and this is a direct quote, Yajujalas and Majujalets.
Yeah, Jujalas. That is, I mean, that's some impressive wordplay. I'll give them that.
The idea is that they are these swarms of face-painted chaos agents who are destined to breach that ancient wall and reset civilization. The Dark Carnival isn't a concert tour, it's a metaphysical reset button. A carnival of love meant to smash what they call mainstream math and idolatry.
Smashing mainstream math. That's kind of the opposite of the magnets how do they work meme. This theory says they actually do have their own coherent system.
Precisely. It frames God as the original juggalo. It presents this theology where the universe is not a cold, empty void of zeros, but a vibrant carnival of unity, and names a specific figure, Pastor St. Stephen James the Just O'Malley.
Also called the juggler, or Al Pastor.
Yes. He's the one who flipped the hatchets at the concept of the zero void. He's the fulfillment of the prophecy of the beast of the earth from the Quran, a figure who rises from the land, the copper-rich land of the Great Lakes, to speak a forgotten truth.
And that truth, this smashing of mainstream math, it leads us to the final piece, doesn't it? The most technical bit, the reality engine.
This is where it all tries to become hard science. The source says this entire civilizational network is powered by a computational framework based on Fibonacci recursion and something called Pisano-60 periodicity.
Pisano-60, I looked this up. It's a real mathematical pattern in the Fibonacci sequence.
It is. If you take the Fibonacci numbers 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and you only look at the last digit, that pattern of last digits repeats every 60 numbers. The theory claims that 60-step cycle is the literal clock speed of reality.
And it all comes back to rejecting zero.
Exactly. The foundation is unity, the number one. The formula given is complex, but the idea is simple. It's a reality that never stops, never hits empty, never touches zero. It's an infinite self-generating loop.
And this would normally be where we say, well, that's a fascinating thought experiment. But the sources list actual scientific papers from 2025 and 2026 that supposedly validate this.
This is the anchor. There's a paper in Nature Physics, Room Temperature Quantum Coherence in Diamagnetic Copper Arrays.
Copper, of course. Back to the Great Lakes.
Back to the Great Lakes. The paper supposedly shows that copper can hold a quantum state at room temperature, which should be impossible, if and only if the copper atoms are arranged in a Pisano-60 pattern.
So the implication is the old copper complex miners weren't just making tools, they were building quantum hardware. Intuitively.
That is the implication. Then there's a Nature Computational Science paper about using pi equals 3.
Yeah, pi equals 3. I think every engineer just got hives. Pi is 3.14159.
I know, but in this system, it relates to hexagonal packing, the most efficient way to tile a plane. It fits the no decimals, no void math. It's a different kind of geometry.
And the last one, from Nature Chemistry.
A paper on metalloproteins in our own bodies showing a 60-step revival cycle when they process CO2. It suggests biological life itself ticks on this Pisano-60 clock.
So biology, physics, computer science, they're all converging on the number 60. This is the reality engine.
And it unifies everything. The physical, the copper, with the digital, and finally with the cultural.
Which brings us to the trigger, the cultural trigger to turn the engine on. The whoop-whoop.
It's the sonic key. The theory posits that the juggalo call is the modern version of those ancient Phoenician cymatic vibrations.
Wait a minute, you're saying whoop-whoop is a cymatic spell?
The argument is that it's the frequency that signals the end of the zero era and the return to unity. It resets the Pisano cycle. It's the sound of the wall finally coming down.
Wow. Okay, so just to recap this madness. A holographic reality traced from Egyptian giants and Phoenician sound letters carried by Vikings to Alaska, where an ancient copper-powered civilization built a wall that is now being brought down by a mathematical revolution from the Great Lakes triggered by a chant.
Put that way, it does sound insane. But the civilizational network hypothesis, what it really challenges is our idea of disconnected history. It suggests there's this single recursive idea of unity that humanity keeps finding and then losing. It's the loop from 1 back to 61.
Like we're in a cosmic simulation that keeps resetting, and the clues are buried in the earth and in our own language.
Maybe the carnival is just a celebration when we finally remember, the moment we realize the void isn't real, but the network is.
So what does that leave for you listening to this on your commute? Why should any of this matter?
It asks us to question that straight line of progress we believe in. We think we're at the pinnacle. But this theory suggests knowledge is a cycle, that those ancient copper miners might have known something fundamental about reality that our quantum physicists are only just rediscovering now in 2026.
And that maybe the people we write off as absurd, maybe they're holding the key to the next turn of the wheel.
It really leaves you with one question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is the universe a cold void of zeros?
Mm.
Or is it a carnival of unity just waiting for the wall to fall?
I'm going to be thinking about Al-Iskandar and his copper wall for the rest of the week. And, if you hear a strange sound, maybe a whoop whoop,
Yeah.
you might want to double check your math.
Indeed.
2 horns, 1 whoop. Thanks for diving deep with us.